To prepare for the Scott Baio interview, he watched the nude parts of Zapped on loop for a half hour. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get on a choice, but get on a mandate. You get it on. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for telling a friend. We love that about you, right, Gina Graham?
That's right.
And bald Brian. Put your tongue in my asshole. Eric Huberman will join us and tell us all about how to get your brand to soar. Very interesting. This new world order.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in studying all this marketing that's going on.
When I used to work at Hugo Boss a million years ago, right when I moved here, you know, there's most of the guys were agents and lawyers. But one guy, I'll never forget, he came in, I said, "What do you do?" And he goes, "Branding." Never heard of it, didn't know what that meant.
He was like,
Cattle ranch.
Yeah, exactly.
Scorching you.
I said, "Oh, how nice for you." Like, okay. And now that's, we all know what that means.
He goes to black fraternities.
Jesus Christ.
It is.
Puts an omega on their arm.
Yeah, that's a deep dive, but a good one. All right, so I'm interested morally, ethically, what you guys think about this. I was scrolling through
Gina and I are pillars of morals.
Do you think?
I think so. I think we're pretty moral people.
I think,
I like it.
Ethical, not so much.
Well, Brian, this is going to go to a field of expertise for you, and then you're going to have to come to sort of a crossroads.
Ooh.
I like this.
Where morality meets story.
Right.
Can't
Right.
wait.
I was watching Cinderella Man last night. It was on HBO or something.
Wow, I haven't seen the movie since it was in theaters.
I just tuned in the middle of it, boxing, you know, Russell Crowe. What's not to like?
Paul Giamatti's great in that.
Ron Howard, yeah, he's directs, I guess. Anyway, he's at some point he's fighting Max Baer. Max Baer was a flamboyant heavyweight from the late 20s and the 30s, and then his son Max Baer Jr., still alive, I think, is Jethro from the Beverly Hillbillies.
I did not know that.
You did not know that was
No.
Max Baer? That's Max Baer Jr.
Wow.
Well, you think about big lumbering guy.
Hulking,
Sure.
yeah.
And gregarious, a bigger in life personality. Well, that's who Max Baer was, the boxer. And they were showing the scene, and I think Chris pulled it, where he ran into Jim Braddock in the restaurant. He was with his wife, and here comes Max Baer with his chicks and his entourage and his fur coat, and the fight has been set for Jim Braddock to fight Max Baer. And I was like a 10-1 underdog, and that's why he got the Cinderella Man, and nobody thought he would win. And Max Baer, in fact, accurately killed a man in the ring, and maybe a second guy in the ring. Although it wasn't
He vaporized. We don't know what happened.
Shot him.
It wasn't the second guy in the ring. The other guy, he beat badly. The guy's next fight, he ate a jab and like died, and people thought that Max had caused
Somebody warmed up the pickle jar lid for him.
Right. So here it is. Here's Max Baer, as he's portrayed in the movie, running in to Russell Crowe.
Well, if it ain't Cinderella Man.
That's you.
I was just going to say that.
Doing a great job.
Looks like a deep fake.
If I never really appreciate it, I hope it's going to be a very successful night for both of us. You keep telling people you're going to kill me in the ring. I got 3 kids at home. You upset my family, particularly my wife.
Listen, Braddock. I'm asking you sincerely not to take this fight. Now, you seem like a decent fella. People admire you. I really don't want to hurt you. It's no joke, pal. People die in fairy tales all the time.
Hey, Max, how about a pitch? How about a shot, huh? Final. There you go.
Take it. It's just smart.
One more.
Yeah, I think the smart thing would be for you to take a fall. Circus act's over, old man.
Right here. Thanks, boy.
I think I'll go a few rounds with a dancing bear.
Very good. Okay. Come on.
All right.
Okay.
There.
Hey, we'll see you in the ring. How about that, champ? Yeah? Come on. Let's go, Jim.
Max, my wife May.
You gotta talk to him, May. You are far too pretty to be a widow.
Uh-oh.
Oh, boy.
You can't say that.
That's not nice. On second thought, maybe I can comfort you after he's gone.
Oh, boy.
Oh,
Shut your
After he's gone.
mouth.
All
Albert
right.
Lang shit.
We got it. Yeah. All
It
right.
won.
So Max Baer killed a guy in the ring in San Francisco. He was 26 years old. Max Baer was haunted by this his whole career.
He didn't seem like it.
He literally couldn't sleep at night. I think Chris has the story, but the guy was left in the ring when Max left and got dressed and went back, but he wanted to know what happened to the guy. How was he? Turned out he was in the hospital. Got up the next morning, went to the hospital, ran into the guy's wife.
Oy.
The guy's wife was like, that's the sport we're in. You know, she sort of
badass.
Dames back then, Gina.
Oof, yeah,
a little
stand by
different
your man.
wiring.
Yep.
Now there'd be a lawsuit, right?
That'd be the beginning.
That'd be the beginning. But Max, it was also rumored that he'd kind of lost his killer instinct. He wasn't, putting a guy away, throwing the haymakers and stuff, because he was haunted by this.
He's afraid it would happen again.
And it fucked him up.
Yeah.
And he was a gregarious guy and a decent guy, and it fucked him up.
Yeah.
Now, in the movie, he's portrayed as a guy who doesn't give a shit about killing the guy in the ring.
I'm going to kill you and fuck your wife.
Yeah,
Kill
that's
you.
exactly what the subtext is.
And, Max Baer Jr. is still alive, and he's got to watch his dad.
Yeah.
And you go, well, this is artistic license, but you also go, well, wait a minute, these are two people that lived, and you're painting one guy like he's cavalier
Monster.
about killing a guy and
Yes.
sort of enjoyed it. Now he's going to kill somebody else. There's a story, Chris. I don't know.
Yeah,
if you
no,
have that
everything
one.
you said was right. He would go. After finding out that Frankie Campbell, that's the boxer that he killed, was in the hospital. When he went over their bedside with the wife said they were trying to comfort each other. The wife said it could have been you and forgave him.
Oof.
But the death traumatized Max. He was a different fighter, a different man, everyone said afterward. He lost a lot of the aggressiveness in the ring and became a showman. He took up smoking, had a ton of nightmares. And then also he cried all the time in front of his son about what happened. His son was born 7 years after that, and still he would cry all the time about what happened.
Pussy.
And he helped put Frankie's kids through college.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah, he drove from there.
So that doesn't work back then. College was $1,200
I was
bucks,
gonna say,
but
$700 a semester.
not the version that we got in the movie. Now, I do understand.
Gotta raise the stakes.
You want to ratchet up the tension. On the
Yeah.
other hand, that guy has people in his life that are alive who watch this, and this will be the history. This will be on record history.
Sure,
People
this is how most people know the story.
People
You know,
don't
they do
take
it
a
all.
deep dive into
Right.
Max Baer. We're not all heroes and half in the bag like me, combing the internet in the middle of the night going, what is the real story of Max Baer? But I don't know. So where are we morally on this?
I'll say before we address the sort of moral ethical conundrum, let me just point a little point of information. Ron Howard, as a director, had a sweet spot, right? Apollo 13 is a fucking awesome movie. So maybe the greatest movie where you know the ending and it's still a white knuckle ride, right? That's a magic act of directing. In his later years, and it wasn't even that much later, it was a few years later, he lost his fastball. Ron Howard started these gross oversimplifications of good and evil. You had to have a good guy, you had to have a bad guy. Not a lot of nuance. And his more recent movies, while he's a legend of directing, are not as interesting or not as good or not as nuanced,
It's
layered.
complex.
And so you get things like this.
Wow.
Cinderella Man is a great story, but the movie lacks some, again, nuance, as we just saw.
Good insight.
We have a statement from Ron Howard about this.
Yeah,
Chris found.
Max Baer Jr. was really upset about it. He says he has great respect for
Why?
Ronnie Howard, but he never called me for any factual information about my father. So Howard's spokeswoman, Leslie Dart, responded, said the script was written from the point of view of the Braddock family. To them, Max Baer was a real threat. So Ron felt that was how the character needed to be drafted.
Yeah, in his mind, it sounds like Bear was just a tool in the tool belt of showing what an underdog Russell Crowe's character was. And you really can't be...
two-dimensional character.
Yeah, you can't be concerned with anything else or you lose ultimately what you're trying to make, which is called Cinderella Man. He was never supposed to win.
I agree.
I mean, I get where they're coming from in terms of making a movie.
But when you undertake something like this, and look, maybe this is maybe it's the writer we should be speaking about rather than the director.
Yes, but the director will have a guy like Ron Howard can do anything he wants with any character at any time. You know what I mean?
He can tear out a page. And
no,
move
I
on.
know. I'm talking a little maybe more about the due diligence. If you're sitting and writing the story, you have to take a dive into who Max Baer really was. What did he look like? Was he tall? What did his hair look like? How did he speak? What were his mannerisms and things like that? And when you're writing the screenplay, all the information is out there that he felt very bad about this, and kids through college and all hospital bedside and everything like that. And I just ethically, it doesn't mean I think you massage the character. You can still make him. It's still Muhammad Ali would be. He fought Jerry Quarry, and he was a favorite, big time. And
a loudmouth.
And bigger than life and everything else. But he didn't kill a man in a ring, and we didn't say he was happy about it. He was just that guy. Right. You know what I mean? And I think that's, if I'm writing this, I feel like that's a more nuanced approach.
Not only I see your point about that, but that is a very meta take, because that scene showed Russell Crowe's character saying, I got a wife. I got kids. They're hearing what you're saying.
You got kids, right.
And that's exactly what we're talking about.
The message would have resonated with Max Baer.
Right. You got Max Baer, who's still around.
84.
And
the son.
Yeah.
Max Baer Jr., Jethro. You guys never knew that one, huh?
No, never heard that.
He's, I think the last I heard from him, he was like running a casino or something. Or started
he looks
a casino.
like he was running a casino.
The type.
Yeah, or something like that. The thing that's crazy about, I was thinking about life, like Max Baer Jr. versus Max Baer Sr. Max Baer Sr., I don't know if he had 80 professional fights, it was like 63 and 17 or something. Had this, I think he had a record for knockouts, like in some sort of club, the over 50 knockout club. Fought Primo Carnera.
Excuse me.
I know that because they talk about that in Quiz Show.
Oh,
That's
really?
like a trivia question in the movie Quiz Show.
Find a really good picture of Primo Carnera, Chris. That Primo Carnera, you see guys, once in a while they do that thing where you go, Jim Brown could have played in today's league. Wow. Like that's how his build was, you know what I mean? But you didn't see guys in the 20s and 30s that were jacked.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's some bigger guys and stuff like that.
Sort of soft but
little
barrel-chested.
Guys and stuff. Primo Carnera was 6'7", 275, and jacked.
6'7"?
6'6". They had him listed sometimes.
He could have been in like
6'7".
a freak show at that.
He was a huge heavyweight back in the day when, you're coming. Rocky Marciano was 5'10" and a half, 184. Who
heavyweight.
Right. These guys were. Look, Primo Carnera was 6'6", 275, and like I said, you find the right picture of that guy, and you go, "Holy shit, that guy looks like he was juicing in the 20s." By the way, what a name, Primo Carnera.
That's a great name.
And
Max, oh my God!
I mean, he's a giant. He's a giant man. There's a picture of him, Chris, with his arms just sort of down, and you're like, "Holy shit! This guy's a massive." This is in. By the way, this is when the average American male was 5'8" and a quarter and 142.
Yeah, in this picture, two average-sized men come right up to his armpit.
He's an offensive tackle today.
Yeah, you can find. There's the one where he's just standing there with his arms down, and there's
Jesus.
He is jacked.
He's like a strong man from the circus.
Yeah.
Right.
So he never lost, obviously. He couldn't have.
Max Baer beat him.
What?
He felt bad about it.
Did he kill him?
There's one where his hands are by his side, Chris, which is
that's a pretty good picture, man.
That's
shit.
insane.
I know. So Max Baer was the real deal. But what I was thinking about is, in life, Max Baer was this flamboyant, legendary heavyweight who beat Primo Carnera and, had, 86 professional fights and knocked out more than 50 guys and blah, 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 blah. Max Baer Jr. because of the genes he inherited from Max Baer, ends up on the Beverly Hillbillies for 3 seasons. He's done no other work that I'm aware of outside of the Beverly Hillbillies from 1964 to 1967. No one gives a shit about Max Baer Sr., and that's Jethro.
Yeah. There's no justice.
The guy who had hack scripts. Yeah. Hey, we're going to stand by the cement pond. I mean, look at Primo Carnera. There's still another one where he's facing with his hands down. God, I looked at it last night.
Look at his hands. They're like bananas.
He's crazy. Crazy. Anyway.
Wow. I'm thinking of a scene they could have added to Cinderella Man that would have quelled all of this. After that scene, I'm going to kill you and fuck your wife.
Gina, please.
If they could have just added a 30-second scene with him in sort of quiet reflection, maybe before bed, doing a prayer, going, I know I said that about this guy's wife, but God, please don't let me kill him. I can't take another murder. And then move on.
Yeah, well, I get it, artistic license, but
it's taking half a day.
When there's people still alive that remember your dad crying,
that's tough.
Their dad crying.
Yeah.
All right, Eric Huberman is going to be ferried in here. I think, Chris, is that how we're doing this? There he goes. He's got a book out. It's called The Hawk Method: The 3 Principles of Marketing That Made Over 3,000 Brands Soar, and it's available on Tuesday on Amazon.
I was doing a little bit of research, and if I got it right, I'll have Eric explain it. But I think one of the things Eric does is like outsource some company's marketing, basically their internal marketing, and they kind of take it over. If I got that right, I want to hear more about that. But it sounded like that's what he does.
Yeah, you're hired. I think you.
All right.
So is it more important the brands now and the marketing than ever before?
Yeah. Thankfully for my business, what we've seen is a decade ago, before that, there's been a lot of cliches about the marketing's the first to go in a recession. That's what businesses cut. They get rid of marketing. Marketers don't last a long time. And, COVID, frankly, was a good example of like everything shutting down. And we figured that would happen again, that everyone would get rid of their marketing. And it realized that with digital and companies that are selling online, that marketing has become their foot traffic too. And so now you can't just get rid of it. Like it's your lifeblood, it's your oxygen. And so companies are frankly forced to market now and have to keep that going as part of their core business because there isn't any other way to drive customers.
Who's the Mount Rushmore of doing it right in the marketing department?
The Mount Rushmore, so the characters that are doing it right?
Well, is it Porsche? Is it Apple? Or some other company we've never heard of? Like, who's really...
They're not doing their job.
Been doing it right? Yeah, if we never heard of them, you're right.
Yeah,
who's been doing it right for the longest time?
I'd say they're doing it right in different ways. I mean, Porsche and Apple are good examples. I still like Red Bull. I think in a time when we're all hyper health conscious, the fact that Red Bull is still a multi-billion-dollar company because of how well they do their marketing, which is where I'd give credit.
It's a lifestyle brand.
Right.
It has very little to do with the drink anymore.
But it has to do with energy. Yeah. All their content, everything they do is energy. And so when you think about energy, you think in high-paced things, it's Red Bull.
Well, Red Bull is Kleenex and Q-tip. You just say, do you have a Red Bull, not an energy drink?
Right. Yeah,
and they are all over motorsports.
Oh, sure.
I mean, they're all over F1 and X Games and like just everything. I
mean, they're one of the only like labeled F1 teams that isn't a car company.
Right. Yeah. If you can see it highlighted on Netflix's Drive to Survive, I think it is, F1 show, which is really compelling.
No, great show.
And fuck all you people who are like, I'm not a car guy. Fuck you.
That is good.
I watch shows about, black female jazz singers who got screwed in the industry. I watch those docs all day long. I'm not a black jazz chick guy. Fuck you. It's compelling shit.
Yeah.
I hate when people do that.
Well,
I'm a car guy, so I'm sensitive.
And I am too. But the part of the fun is getting into something you don't normally get exposed to. That's where these Netflix documentaries are awesome. It's like, no, it's not something I normally go do, but now I can check it out.
Yeah, and you're right. I think they are one of the few or maybe the only companies that what it costs to sponsor an F1 team every year.
Imagine.
It's unbelievable. Yes, Brian.
Eric had a really good, of course, he had a good insight about in like when the financial crisis happened in like 08, 09.
Right.
My wife's in marketing and she was working for Team One at the time and then later off as everyone else was.
Yep.
And when COVID came around, the initial worry was like, oh boy, what's this going to do to business? She works for Edelman now. They had their biggest year ever. So many people just jumped on board and needed, they needed the marketing or the crisis marketing or whatever it was. It was a big year.
No, we had 126 people at Hawk Media when COVID hit, and we now have about 320.
Yeah, it's a boon.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also no telling how this is ever going to affect that. You know what I mean? How something shutting down markets and stay at home, and then Zoom goes through the roof, or everyone learns a new way,
and then collapses again.
Right? Is that what happened to Zoom?
And their stock price, it's not. Actually, collapse is an exaggeration, but it definitely got overvalued and then settled back down. It looked like.
How is there any personal application to this? Like somebody's young and they go, I want to start a podcast, but I need people to hear about it or know about it, or I want to start my own company, but it's me, I'm an actor, or whatever that is.
Well, obviously I'm biased, but I believe that this day and age, the same way everybody has to market in business, it's the same thing personally. Like even from dating, and you're on a dating app, like you're putting up your copy and your creative and all the things that we do as a marketer. And I met my wife on Tinder because apparently I'm decent at using these platforms. And
you're a damn good marketer.
Oh, you gamed the system.
Punched above my weight class, so it was perfect. And so where it comes to dating, and then as you said, launching your own career, your own podcast, your own content, I mean, a lot of the term personal brand comes up a lot, but I think there's a lot of validity to it. If you're going to get a job, there's very few employers now that don't go just take a look at your social media. And so what you're putting out there is the brand, whatever that is. If it's you smoking a ton of weed and partying, it might change the chance of getting hired versus you looking like you're really into whatever that industry is that you're getting into.
Yeah, that's why I cook the stuff. I make it look like I'm on the crew team.
Yeah, smart. It's a smart thing to do.
So this is just a new world order now, right?
It is and it isn't. I mean, it's one of those things like it's a tool if you want to use it, but there's a lot of people that aren't active on social media, that aren't, leveraging these tools and do it a different way. And there's plenty of ways to do it, but they are tools. They are there to use. So if you use them, using them right is super important.
Go ahead, Brian.
Speaking of New World Order and social media, I am constantly shocked. I overhear, she works at home, right? My wife. So I hear all this stuff. I am constantly shocked at how big of a pie, big a piece of the pie influencer marketing is. Like that is it must be the fastest growing segment of the industry.
It was. I wouldn't say it is anymore. I would say
I'm talking about a week ago.
Yeah, exactly. And what I'd say is it's definitely a big channel. The issue you have there is it's really hard to be predictable and scalable, meaning you can invest heavy into it, but if it works, how do you do that again?
Sure.
How do I reinvest into that? How do I scale that? And so it's a great part of the mix. Yeah, and I talk about it in the book. You mentioned like you need to kind of cover three parts of marketing: awareness, nurturing, and trust, or like the three principles of marketing we talk about. And the influencer covers all of them. It's creating new awareness for a product. It's helping nurture that as they talk about it over and over again, because generally if you work with an influencer, you don't want it to be mentioned once. And then trust, and when you're an early brand, it's borrowed from someone else. If someone trusts Adam as an example because they listen to the show a lot and then he endorses something, that thing you're endorsing is borrowing that trust from you until they can gain trust themselves. And so influencer covers all of that. So it's very compelling. But again, I might go to 10 different influencers. One will spike my traffic and do really well for me. One will do nothing. And then what do I do from there? Do I just try to find someone that's similar to that other influencer? It's really hard to make predictable.
I guess the flip side of that coin is, with everybody sort of dipping their toe in this, even just, us Joe Schmoes on the street, what do you find to be the big pitfalls or big mistakes that people make, maybe where they're working a little harder, not smarter?
Yeah, with marketing, and I think everybody needs to understand this, it's not instant. Favorite line is 9 women can't make a baby in a month. It's
is that true?
I think that's true. I'm not a scientist, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. And it takes time for people to warm up to a brand. And so we see this with many business owners and marketers. When they go to market something, they'll spend a bunch of money on Facebook ads or influencers, and then the next day they're like, "Well, where's my money?
It didn't work."
It didn't work. Like we'll stop everything because this isn't working.
Yeah.
And that is even for big brands, that is the biggest mistake I see.
How does this affect politicians, politics? Is this going to be a much bigger part of that new world order?
Yeah, I mean, it has been since, Obama was big in social media. So it's definitely a big part of the mix. And the thing about digital that's changed everything is you can target whoever you want, whenever you want. So it used to be that you're trying to reach your demographics. Everywhere, the way marketing was sold and talked about was demographics. Now, any demographic you can imagine is on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat and Google. So you can reach these people. And so with politicians, now they're like, okay, so I can reach exactly the people that I have to convince to go out and vote. Because the people that are already going to vote for me because of my party, I don't really need to do much with them. I need to convince the people that won't maybe get up off their couch and go. I need to get them out. And then I need to convince the other people that may not vote for the other party to definitely not go out. And so that's when you start to get into almost that gray and black area where it's like they're doing shady things, publishing articles that say, oh, there's no point of you going to vote for the other guy, don't worry about it, and things like that. And they're leveraging these tools for that,
What was the name? Just escaped me. What was the company?
Yeah, Cambridge Analytica.
Cambridge, thank you. Yeah.
Where does I know it's all young demo. Everyone's always in the demo. TV is like 18 to 34, demo, and you could go, oh, we got 5 million listeners. And I go, but not in the demo. We need the demo. Yeah. And then I go, what? Why are we so married to the demo? And then they go, well, if you get them, then they'll be with you for life or something. But I used to eat a lot of top ramen when I was in the demo. I don't eat that shit anymore. There's a lot of stuff I did that I don't do. And when I was in the demo, good luck running a Mercedes-Benz commercial because I got no money. Are we overemphasizing that, or is it overly simplistic to just go, once you use Crest toothpaste when you're 19, you'll never
Sure. You're a lucky strike man.
Right.
Well, and that's the issue with a lot of the industry. I mean, I started my company because I found that 99% of marketers are full of shit. And that is the motivation to starting the company and writing the book, was like, I want to make this a lot less opaque. I want people to actually be able to understand marketing and have easy access to it, because it shouldn't be this hard. And I think a lot of people, whoever decided that the 18 to 34 demo was so critical, someone decided that at some point. I'm sure we can Google it, but then everyone just started regurgitating that. And
it might have made sense in 1979, for example.
Well, listen, you can argue logic around it, but I think to Adam's point, like, same thing. Like, I ate ramen when I was 18, and McDonald's and all these things, I don't really eat that anymore. But like, so they got me then. That doesn't mean they're keeping me forever. And like, we actually see this mistake happen. Everybody wanted to target college kids, like up until about 4 years ago. Everyone would call this to be like, all we need to do is get on campuses, and then they'll go crazy. It's like, oh, you mean all those people that have no money and all they care about is
free stuff,
partying, free stuff, energy drinks to the point. But like, no, they don't care about your all natural supplement. Like, that's not really a lot of college kids. And so there becomes these like cliches that people start marching on, and they don't really come from anywhere with real data behind it. And again, what we've seen is that isn't the case, that you actually can figure out that purchase cycle, meaning how long does it take from someone to understand your brand to actually buying? And it's usually weeks to months, which means it's not days, but it's not 5-10 years either.
Yeah, it's like saying, once these 9-year-olds are exposed to balloon animals, then we got them for life.
Exactly.
Big balloon animal.
But I will say, given the car sitting out here, Lamborghini and Ferrari talk about they sell a 5-year-old to buy it at 35. So there are
that makes
brands.
sense.
Yeah, exactly. There are brands that they get you when you're a little kid, that it's an aspiration that they live with you for decades before you get it, and that makes sense in certain.
We've talked about that.
Speaking of cars, I'm always very interested. I'm a car guy, but I've always been interested in the Audi brand. And I've always kind of used it as an example of a marathon and not a sprint with these companies. And, Audi came along, and they were kind of interesting because they're kind of new to us. And they go way back to Auto Union and Germany and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, and then they were winning a lot of rallies and stuff like that. And they're kind of cool. And then they started making a lot of passenger cars for out here. And it was always trouble. They were braking all the time. And so by the time you got to the mid 80s, you would tell someone, don't buy the Audi. Get the Mercedes, or get the Porsche, or, get a Toyota. And then it was like, oh, they're done. They're kind of sunk. And then at some point, in the earlier 90s, mid or earlier 90s, they started like coming back, and their first offerings were kind of like, hey, that's an Audi, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The car looks good, but still a little skeptical because everyone knew someone who had an old Audi from 7 years ago that was always in the shop, and like, well, we'll wait and see. And now, Iron Man or whatever, but Audi's kind of synonymous with a really cool piece of machinery, and shed this whole reliability issue, or you get in that car, you're asking for trouble. And they did it. And I'm curious in how that works.
Yeah, we talk a lot about it. It's brand comes with consistency, and you can shed a bad brand by being consistently the opposite. And Audi did a great, and when we talk about consistency, it's consistency of delivery, meaning like actually being a good car, but it's also consistency of messaging. If you talk about how great of a car it is over and over again, people start to believe it in anything. You want to go back to politics, like, personally, I'll say it, I'm not a Trump supporter, but he said make America great again over and over and over again until a piece of the population just decided he's going to make America great again.
It's a daily affirmation.
Yeah, exactly. Car company can do the same thing. We're a great car. We're a great car. We're a great car. Well, maybe they're a great car.
I can't see Marco Rubio without going, little Marco Rubio.
Yeah, exactly.
Sleepy Joe.
Sleepy Joe.
Yeah, he's coming up next. I just labeled everybody.
Yeah, and it works.
Yeah.
And so you
stuck.
can do it for yourself too, though, and that's what's really interesting in marketing. And we could go back to your personal brand. If it's almost, people talk about the self-narrative of like, I'm a great person or I'm a good person, and you just say, I really like to be a good person, people are just going to assume, okay, yeah, he's a good person. Like, that's how that works. And if you say it, now you have to back it up, because if you do enough things that conflict with that, they're going to be like, yeah, we hear you. So same thing with Audi. They started talking about being a great car. They were in Iron Man. They were associated with all these great brands too, and they delivered. They made a great car. Because I remember when I was 16, there was a Car and Driver article about the TT when it came out, and said, not enough go, stop, or steer. And that sat with me as a brand forever, that I was like, I'm not touching it.
I want all three of those things.
Yeah, exactly.
That's their little sports car. Hey, Chris, just a note, if we can get hold of Trump, if he could just label me effervescent, Adam.
Right.
I think that would
We'll
go a
take
long
it.
way toward my brand.
Yeah.
And speaking of brands, I always bring up Subaru, because their commercials are about love and puppies and gay relationships. I don't hear anything about bonderized steel or drivetrain warranties or anything. I grew up watching commercials about cars where they talked about warranties, and they talked about most durable drivetrain warranty and a 10-year rust proof and thing, and then it was sticker price, and then it was mileage. It was a lot of mileage. No numbers anymore, just that couple driving through the woods.
A lot of those things are table stakes. They assume they're going to last and have some warranty, 4-year warranty, 5-year warranty, whatever it is. And a lot of people, everybody drives. Not everybody cares about their car. I'm a car guy too, but when you talk about Subaru, unless you're going for a WRX and you love off-roading, I have a lot of friends that have Subarus. They're more of the outdoor, holistic lifestyle type of people, and they've captured that in such a great way that they're like, we made the car for you. Kind of like, a Prius is a good example in a different way of like, that's for the quote-unquote environmental person. And apparently the science doesn't really add up for that, but every heavy environmental person I knew went for a Prius.
It's ingrained.
But I got to say, driving a Prius, I hate that car. But
well, you're a car guy.
Yeah.
But you get...
So they won't sell me on the engineering of it, but they're going to
Leonardo DiCaprio's driving,
Correct.
he makes $40 million a year, and he drives a 37. Drives the same car fucking Chris drives over there, the Losermobile.
Chris is just like Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yes, Max Baer drove a Stutz Bearcat. You know what I mean? Like but it's all labeling, it's all branding, it's all of it now. And Subaru's a good example of, Subaru used to be kind of a weirdo car when I was younger. Like, it was like
an off-brand.
It was like, first off, we didn't really know if it was Japanese, like Nissan, Toyota, Honda. I get it, Subaru. What's up with this? And they figured it out.
Yeah, it's funny. I am a Subaru owner, proud Subaru owner. In fact, Adam, somebody sent me a whole bag of the little
badges.
Yeah, we got to put those on my car. But when I was doing mornings, I had a deal with them, and I was like, Subaru, isn't that for people who are a lot sportier than me? But I fell in love with it, and I'm down with a puppy kissing booth. Isn't that what they have?
I went to the car show in Detroit, and everyone else. It's so funny, all the off-road brands. So you're walking around this convention center, and Jeep's over here, and they got the Cherokee up on the fake rock, tilted at 45 degrees, showing the suspension travel and everything. And then you go to Dodge Ram and it's parked up on a mountain, it'll climb a 30-degree incline or something. You go to Subaru, they got a puppy adoption going on there. There's no models, no prices, no anything, just a crate full of puppies.
But that's how you know you've arrived, I guess, right?
But that's the point, is like the people that aren't diehard maybe car enthusiasts. I mean, half the country has puppies. We did a puppy adoption at our last conference too, actually. So
Smart.
It works.
Man.
People love puppies.
I was hanging out at the Subaru booth, and one of the last Subaru commercials I saw was them just like driving through the forest and the wilderness, and all they basically said is, we give the most money back to the forestry, department or whatever for conservation or whatever. No, not talking about anything to do with the car. Just once we get your money, we're going to break off a piece and give it to the Sierra Club.
Well, and if you live in the mountains and you don't drive a Forester, something's wrong.
Right.
That's how they look at it.
Yeah, it is. It's so. I mean, I guess in a way, and I don't know, who are some of the brands that haven't gotten on board? Like, who are some of the brands that are
few and far between,
like old school,
kicking it old school?
Oh, I see.
And can it be effective? I
mean, that's the thing. The brands that don't get on board, we don't remember.
We haven't heard of.
That's the point. Well, so we can say, I'm sure there are, but it's mostly the brands that, like, what happened to Saab?
And it's something like, I'm going to get the number wrong, but it's something like 60% of like a younger demographic wants the companies they buy from, whether it's shirts or socks or cars or whatever, to be socially conscious, whatever that means, environmentally or whatever.
Yes, and I think that it's important to know, like, they want to, it's almost an assumption, like it's table stakes now. So a lot of companies think that, like, they're going to give back and that's going to be some marketing channel for them. That's like, we're going to be the next Tom Shoes, and because you buy a car from us, we're going to plant a tree in, Africa. Like, they're like, yeah, you should. It's not like, oh, okay, now I'm going to buy from you. It's like, you should be, and every one of you should be. So
that's
it doesn't
the baseline.
It's if you don't do it, you're going to suffer. If you do it, it might not help you that much.
I can't even remember what the scandal was now, but remember a few years ago, Wells Fargo, because I only remember the commercials they ran.
The apology commercials.
Yes, we know what we did. We are sorry. And that has stuck in my mind, and I imagine did a lot of good. Can you talk about brands that want to own up to a mistake?
So to that point, did you open an account at Wells Fargo?
I didn't, but I like them now.
So my view of it, and it's my own personal experience, is I actually don't think apologizing goes a long way. And it's a thing I wish I didn't believe, that I wish wasn't the case. But most of the time I see when companies own their mistakes or individuals own their mistakes, they just get doubled down on by the vocal minority that hates them.
So you're admitting you fucked up.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been shouting from the mountaintop about this, but I'm very interested in your thoughts. Hold on, Brian.
Sure.
Not every one of your inhales is important. But I think we're playing from some publicist playbook that I say all the time that was written in 1999. Like, so-and-so gets into trouble. Get out. Go apologize. And now
get in front of it.
We triple down. And there's a more news cycle because now there's the cycle of the apology. And we've somehow decided as a society, apology not accepted. I mean, that should be the name of your next book.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's not doing what it used to do.
And it's a shame because I wish we lived in a society that rewarded people for owning their mistakes, but we don't. We live in a society that goes, oh, now we smell blood, let's double down.
Well, here's the psychology behind that, I believe. If you are very outraged by somebody, politician, celebrity, or Wells Fargo or something, who did something, a lot of the things are 2s and 3s, but we're at 10 in the outrage. So basically, we're trying to be outraged. So then when you apologize to stop our outrage, we're not outraged because of the event. We're outraged because we want to be outraged. So you're apologizing for the event. We don't really care about the event. We want to be outraged. So how would it work?
If Wells Fargo was apologizing at a 9 and you don't remember why, like, were they involved in genocide? Like, the over-apology?
And they made a mistake, but I think what's better in those situations, just talk about the positives. Like, hey, this is what we're doing now. This is what happened. Don't worry about the past. Like, this is what's happened, I think, is the benefit. So for the people that are concerned, it's like, here's how we're going to make sure. I think it was about fake accounts. They were opening a bunch of, forcing people to open accounts and like not telling them and charging them. And it's like, so we're not doing that anymore. We have regulations around it. Moving on. This is how we work now is super important versus like you bring the focus onto the negative everyone's just reminded, and most people don't care. That's the issue, is unless you were directly affected by what Wells Fargo did, then chances are 99% of the other people don't actually care what Wells Fargo did.
Wow.
Well, they're old school because they have a stagecoach.
That's right.
That's right.
By nature.
Really
Literally the Wells Fargo wagon.
Listen, it sounds self-serving, but you share this podcast with somebody, and I will adopt an owl. And this is weird timing because we're talking about doing this anyway.
Really weird.
Yeah.
Per share, or just one owl?
Jeez, Chris, I don't know if we
gotta work out.
Do you have room for
out.
how many owls?
All right, let me hit blinds galore here, and then we'll do some news. Friends and family sale. Well, it starts this week. All custom blinds and shades, 50% off. One of our biggest sales of the year. Visit blindsgalore.com for 50% off before it ends, March 8th. Give any room an incredible makeover with custom-built blinds and shades and shutters. Family-owned and run. The company's been around. I think it's a mother-daughter team. Run for over 20 years. I have them in my edit bays, and my bedroom, and my home, and my shop. Dr. Drew has them all up in his place as well. And we love them. Just take the measurements, and you can customize it online. See exactly what they'll look like on the screen before you buy them. Expert customer care. They have a team that'll help you every step of the way, online or over the phone. It's blindsgalore.com, right, Dawson?
Get over to blindsgalore.com to order your free samples today and take 50% off everything during their huge friends and family sale. Blinds Galore makes it easy to get the custom blinds and shades you've always wanted in your home. That's blindsgalore.com, and let them know that Adam sent you.
All right. Eric, you want to hang out? We'll take a break and do the news?
Sure.
Right after this.
News with Grad. News with Gina Grad. Breaking, viral, weird crime, protest, politics. Give me news with Gina Grad. Stuff they saw on TMZ. Joe Biden, Kamala. Meet news with Gina Grad.
The news with Gina Grad.
Well, let's just go over some highlights from the State of the Union address on Tuesday night. Biden made war in Ukraine a major focus, of course. He spoke about the closure of U.S. airspace to Russian flights, took aim at Putin, highlighting how he's now isolated from the rest of the world more than ever. On domestic stuff, Biden addressed the economy and inflation, which is at its highest level in decades, and a major concern. I think that's the reason his polls have been plummeting. He pointed out record job gains and economic growth and praised the passage of the bipartisan infrastructure bill. And with COVID measures being dialed back, he urged Americans to get back to work and get back to school.
Well,
not a moment too soon.
Not polling how it used to poll, so now it's time for all the masks to go. But listen.
Didn't have to wear it at the gym today.
As long as I think the problem, in terms of messaging, if I may, which is you can't tell everyone get back to normal, and then we see you walking across a lawn to a helicopter alone with a fucking mask on, and then you take everyone and you leave an open seat for Elijah in between the Congress, and so there's literally they're social distancing, but it's not 6 foot, it's 26 inches now, and then as soon as that's done, we all hug it out. Mm-hmm. What is the message?
Exactly.
You got it. If you're going to hug it out, then don't distance in the chamber.
Well, they're working on that. He pointed out, he praised his Supreme Court pick, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, and unified the room for a moment.
Praised his pick?
Yes. Praised her. Unified the room for a moment, calling on more funding for the police, which led to cheers from both sides. There were some heckles. The crowd got a little,
Garrigus says that
Ketanji Brown
Jackson is very well qualified.
Yeah, and apparently very well liked on both sides. And I heard, I'm going to screw it up, but NPR said she's very distantly related to Paul Ryan by marriage. So I think she has friends everywhere and everyone really likes her. So we'll see. But there was a couple of moments. There was a chant, of course, of Build That Wall, led by Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert.
I didn't see it.
I didn't see that either.
Can you pull it? I didn't pull it. Sorry. They're doing like a Build That Wall? Is this surprising?
No. In the state
Yes.
Is heckling a State of the Union common? I feel like that doesn't happen.
Remember the one who was like, "You lie"? That was a couple of years ago.
That was with Obama.
But this one, you got to find the Build That Wall because they're doing a dance. It's like very sorority girl, the two of them. And
I missed that.
I was amazed at Nancy Pelosi, 81 years young. She popped out of that chair like it was spring loaded, 17 times. I'm 57. I'm on the sofa, like, huh? Here we go. Where's my towel bar? Shit, boy, help me up. She sprung up, popped down. You don't see 81-year-olds pop.
No.
She popped
Just happy
up.
to be there.
Is it possible it's spring loaded? Just a little boop?
A little ejector seat?
Yeah.
They do have those
Craftmatic
seats.
adjustable?
If you watch the shows where they advertise the bathtubs with the doors, you can also find the seat that's
It's
sort
the
of...
Craftmatic adjustable.
Is it?
Yeah, it's what's his name? The old guy who used to be
I thought that was a bed.
Art Linkletter.
I thought the Craftmatic was
I thought
a bed.
it was a chair that helped
Well, they
you
do
up.
have a chair that pushes you
I think
up.
you're both right.
But I don't know if it's the Craftmatic. The Craftmatic adjustable was the bed
Just the
that
bed.
sat you up.
All right. Who is Art Linkletter, by the way?
He hosted game shows or something, and maybe did Kids Do the Darndest Things or
Okay,
something.
I buy that.
We can find something
And of
like
course, I know you're not big for these first, but it was kind of cool to hear Madam Speaker, Madam Vice President. That's a first in American history. Is this the Build That Wall?
Yeah, you can't really hear because the microphones weren't picking it up.
But do you see the dance?
You'll see them.
Okay.
cheer.
that. I didn't watch the whole thing. Why aren't the mics heated up?
Well,
Everyone's.
they're doing it underneath a huge applause because Biden was talking about secure the borders, and then the mics were really around Biden.
That's not even remotely the cringiest thing that happened.
Oh,
This
really?
was boy.
I missed the whole thing, so please.
So toward the end of the speech, Biden turned his attention to an issue that has drawn bipartisan support, another issue, which is increased care for soldiers who've suffered from the effects of toxic exposure. And I'll play this clip for you, but as Biden talks about soldiers dying from burn pit exposure. NBC reports that Boebert yells, "You put them there," 13 of them, but all I hear is 13 of them. She's referencing the terror attack during last year's Kabul withdrawal and how chaotic that got. But I think you're only going to be able to hear her say 13 of them. But that's not the cringy part. The part is what he goes on to say if he hadn't been so rudely interrupted. So here's the moment.
Numbness, dizziness. A cancer that would put them in a flag draped coffin. I know. One of those soldiers was my son, Major Bo Biden.
So he goes on to talk about his
Marjorie
dead
Taylor
son.
Greene's like, let's talk about the other son.
Yeah, I believe that was Boebert in that instance. But I get it. You want everyone to hear you. You're making a statement, but he's trying to talk about his son who served and died. It's just bad timing.
Yes. He didn't die serving.
But he is now deceased.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not a State of the Union stan. I haven't seen every minute of every one, but is heckling common? I feel like I've never seen that before.
I would call it rare. But it happened.
Okay.
It had the ULI thing
Yeah.
with Obama and Obamacare or something like that.
I don't remember.
He said, I don't know, if you
I
like
remember
your
what it
doctor,
was-
you
yeah.
can
Like your
keep your
doctor, you
doctor.
can keep it.
He was lying, by the way, to be fair to the guy, but you still let him say it.
The Couth issue. You know
Yes.
what's way more fun is the House of Commons.
That's what
Oh, that's
they
the best.
are fun.
Well, let's go further than the House of Commons. When you start getting into some of the third world places, they literally duke it
they
out.
throw down. Yeah.
They throw
That's
down.
true. That's true. There's
Yeah.
a couple of body slams. You're right. Well, I'm so glad we have Eric here because I want to talk about what tech companies are doing about Ukraine. And you mentioned table stakes. I'm wondering how far some of these things go as opposed to others that really seem legitimate. So I'm just going to read them and I'd love to get your take.
Sure.
So let's talk about Apple first. All Apple products are paused in the Ukraine, all sales. Apple Pay services
In the
have been
Ukraine or
limited.
Russia?
Thank you, Russia.
Okay.
RT
that'd be
News.
mean, just
It would be
piling on like
really unfortunate. Thank you. RT News and Sputnik News, which are owned by the Russian state, have been removed from the App Store, and live traffic updates have been disabled in Apple Maps, assuming it's probably the same thing that they were doing with the road signs. Not helping anyone get any more territory. Google is providing $15 million in donations, along with $5 million in advertising credits for humanitarian organizations. They've also disabled some live Google Map features and amped up their monitoring of hacking. Facebook's parent company, Meta, has restricted access to RT, which is the Russian state controlled TV network. They've also made encrypted one-to-one chats available on Instagram, so they're private conversations, essentially.
Hold on. Breaking Art Linkletter news.
Oh, this is important.
Hosted House Party on CBS Radio and TV for 25 years, and also hosted People Are Funny. That's what I was trying to think of.
Quite a title.
On NBC Radio.
Thank you.
Story checks out.
Important.
Sorry.
Facebook's also trying to shut down a lot of the fake news and propaganda coming out of Russia.
Yes.
It's about time.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Now they made their move, but they did.
Now, here's where I get a little like, okay. Twitter has pledged to match donations from employees and is labeling tweets that contain content from state-affiliated media.
So are we, and it's like one of those things like, you should do that. That's what you said, table stakes. It's like, I don't understand why Twitter's getting pressed for that.
Right.
Like,
That's interesting.
It's a good thing. It is a good thing. I don't want to fault them. To me, it's like when people hated on Jeff Bezos for donating $100 million to COVID.
Right. Relief.
Relief. And everyone's like, well, he's got way more than that. It's like, he still gave $100 million.
Yeah, what'd you give?
Let's not fault Twitter for giving, but at the same time, like, I don't know why you'd get a big piece of press around it.
Right, and also it's like, maybe you give your chunk as Jack Dorsey or whatever, or whoever's in charge now, and then have the employees chip in. Like, come on. Airbnb doing what they do best. They are offering temporary housing to 100,000 refugees fleeing Ukraine. Yep. And Elon Musk, we talked about this, he sent Ukraine an undisclosed number of Starlink terminals, which allow access to satellite internet in an attempt to counter service disruptions in the country. So, I mean, that's pretty amazing. I'd love your take on some of these.
I mean, I think in general, Google, for example, shutting down the maps, they were finding that it actually really hurt Russia. You guys have probably seen the road signs.
Yeah, we talked about
that.
Well.
Yeah, perfect. So that Russia doesn't know
where they're
going,
yeah.
and now they can't Google Map it, which they all use. They can't use road signs. Like it's actually having an effect, and it's remarkable to see that almost the entire world is against what Russia's doing. Even China came out and said that they were not for it. And so I think from a marketing perspective, this is a great opportunity to show like we stand with everyone else. And the one shame, just to be blunt, is most of the Russian population doesn't seem to be for this either. And so a lot of them are now suffering, not like they can't get their iPads. And I have friends in Russia. I'm Ukrainian, actually. I'm of Ukrainian descent. And so I have friends in both. And they're all leaving because they have to get out of there now in Russia, too.
Right. Their airspace seems to be closed. I don't know where they're...
Yeah.
But also,
they're driving.
Okay. Well, also their MTA, like their subway shit doesn't even work. Like they can't do anything. And people who are protesting in Russia are getting arrested.
Correct.
Well,
and so
77% of Russians vote for Vladimir Putin last time, according to official state stats.
Yeah, exactly.
They've had a change of heart.
Yeah. And but I do think it's from a marketing perspective, Nike does this better than anyone a lot of times. Is like they're going to stand for something. It's going to alienate certain people. In this case, you can't really lose standing against what Russia's doing right now. But in a lot of these situations, taking a stance really does mean something to your consumer. And I mean, Nike skyrocketed when they partnered with Colin Kaepernick, even though there was a lot of hate on the guy too.
Nike doesn't stand for everything. They kneel for shit.
I
don't want to correct you, but they're never standing.
As you wear Adidas, it's perfect.
It's so true. It is. I heard a thing about that Putin may be one of the richest guys on the planet. They don't know, and his entire world. But yeah, I'm sort of with Brian in the extent that like you go, who is this guy? But it's also don't stand for this guy. Like I don't know what Look, I'm not going to stand in front of a tank in the middle of the town square. I'm not saying I'm doing that, but I'm just saying folks that are governed by despots, it's 2022. Let's figure out a way to kind of work these guys out of the equation at some point.
Yeah.
I would think that might be coming because when you have the population of Russia is not like China or North Korea where they have no access to media. Like they have full social media access and they're very well informed on what's going on in the world and why this is wrong. It's not like they're held behind a cloak and propaganda can reach them if they want it to.
But it's not like great leader.
Yeah,
it's not
exactly.
that.
It's not at all. So they're not for this war. I think the majority are not. And even a lot of the oligarchs are speaking out against it. And so he's very siloed on this. And there's reports of soldiers going there that thought they were going on a training mission. So like, this could very much backfire.
There was a very heartbreaking, I think it was a letter, a text, or email or something. It was I heard yesterday. It was from a Russian soldier to his parents, and he basically said, they said we're going to be cheered and welcomed here. Yeah. We're not. We're running over civilians and soldiers like in the street. I don't want to do this. Nobody wants to do this. And that guy was killed. Ugh. In the process. So
even
that's
the military doesn't want to be
it's
there.
only one guy, but I feel like his voice is a lot of people that are involved with that.
Well, everything we've been talking about, the sanctions, that's cute. And that's fine. But let's talk about hitting Vladimir Putin where it's really going to hurt.
Scalp polish.
In sports, Vladimir Putin has been stripped of his honorary Taekwondo black belt by World Taekwondo over his country's invasion of Ukraine.
Given to the estate of Elvis Presley. I don't know if you've read the rest of the story.
I didn't keep. Hold on, I'm not done.
Wrong has been righted today.
The move comes after the International Judo Federation says it's suspending Putin's status as honorary president and ambassador. But it doesn't stop there. Of course, Russia's been banned from everything now, from ice skating and from FIFA and from hockey. But yeah, he does not get to keep his black belt. Honorary. What is an honorary black belt? I understand.
Doctorate.
Yeah, but at least you can fake an honorary doctorate. How do you fake an honorary black belt?
Someone else fights for him.
There you go.
Yeah.
His proxy.
I always felt that way about Bill Cosby or anybody else when we took the honorary doctorate away and it was invisible. It seems to fly in the face of martial arts and education.
Yes.
Here you go.
To be blunt, it's a marketing move. It is a brand alignment that they want to get again, back to the brand thing. It's all about trust. And if you are significantly aligned with someone that is completely not trustworthy, you want to distance yourself as quickly as possible.
We get it. You're in marketing.
You asked. And so
it's a perfect day for you to be here.
No, that's why I'm here. But the other thing that I think is really interesting is when they've, like, what the Olympics did with what they call it, the Russian Olympic Committee or something.
The IOC?
Yeah.
No, the ROC. Remember the Russian Olympic athletes?
Yeah, whatever it was. Yeah. That didn't mean anything. Like, oh God, they can't put their flag up. Like, they're still competing. And so, like, what we're seeing is a step further where, like, FIFA is literally out of Russia and Russia can't compete. Like, that's a real statement that now that's the biggest sport in Russia. That's going to piss people off too. Like, that is going to have an effect both with making people like FIFA more, as well as now Russians are going to be even more pissed off about the situation.
Yeah, the more we talk about it, the more I think the Russian people are the real victims. There's no Batman. There's no soccer. They can't use their iPad.
Waze is down.
Waze is down.
I will surrender immediately if you take away my Waze, number one.
Yeah, same.
Number
You'll
two,
know where to go.
You kind of wonder, like, is somebody close to him going to try to take him out at some point? Like,
Valkyrie situation?
Funny you should
Hitler
use those
with the
words.
bomb.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like if you're some oligarch and you're like, man, they just put a padlock on my Manhattan apartment that's right next to Central Park.
Right.
Like, I'm fucking not down with this bullshit anymore.
Well, he does love to, like, poison people with soup, so maybe that'll be a meal. I don't know.
I'm sure he has some security, but you just kind of wonder, is somebody going to make a move from within the circle?
Well, it's funny that you should say somebody close to him. Kaylin, I don't know if you could grab this really fast. Did you see the picture of where he sits, sits at the table?
There have been a few pictures of this absurdly long table.
That's how he has meetings with his inner circle. How many feet would you say he is away from them?
He's 28 feet away from the closest guy, for sure.
His inner circle.
That's
so good luck getting over there.
He has an inner oblong. I think it's really could be defined as a circle.
True.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's a good question.
Is he a germ freak too? So I heard.
I mean,
I heard he was a germ freak.
The table would suggest that.
Yeah. All right. Well, in a world where I feel like every third movie is somebody's being taken out by an assassin, and it always seems to be on the table. You don't hear about the attempts. You'd think you'd hear about the attempts.
Yeah.
They try not to because it encourages it. It gives other people ideas. Oh, people are attempting, then I can also attempt.
Well, it'd be nice if something happened to him because it doesn't sound like a great guy.
Yeah.
And he has a weird life. He has kids. He has, I think, daughters.
That we know of.
Mistresses and all that kind of stuff.
Swinging single.
And then there's the reports that maybe he has some sort of terminal illness, and this is his last hurrah.
He's always been touted as a little more calculated than he's showing right now. Like, it sounded like he was a very well calculated, ex-KGB. Like, this is, and obviously he wants, but he is acting like something is wrong, and it's his last ditch effort. Is kind of how this is coming off. All
right, Gina, let's bring it home on that.
You got it. News. Let's do it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news. I'm gonna kill you and fuck your wife.
Gina Grad.
That was the news with Gina Grad.
All right. The book is called The Hawk Method. It's available on Tuesday on Amazon. Scott Baio shall be joining us joining me, I should say, for the next segment. And we'll listen to him right after this.
The Adam Carolla Show presents Scott Baio's birthday cocktail party for September 22nd. Let's see who's invited. Let's welcome the 18th century inventor who gave us the first electric motor, Michael Faraday. The voice for Mr. Ed, Alan Rocky Lane. Tommy Lasorda. Let's welcome the singer of the band Whitesnake, David Coverdale is here. Former director of the CIA, John Brennan. Australian singer-songwriter Nick Cave. Joan Jett has entered the building. Italian singer Andrea Bocelli. Fox News' Neil Cavuto. And the fictional main character of Tolkien's novel The Hobbit. Happy birthday, Bilbo Baggins. Scott Baio on the Adam Carolla Show.
Scott's got a one-man show called How Did I Get Here? We're going to discuss that. It's a retrospective on 50 years in television. And first one's coming up March 7th at the Broadway Palm Theater. That's in Fort Myers, Florida. And benefits the Fallen Officers Foundation. We can get into that as well. And then going to Caldwell, New Jersey at let's see, how do I say that? Calandras Italian Village Restaurant. That'll be March 10th. Good to see you again, Scott.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me back, Adam. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. So, 50 years on TV because you got started early, man.
Yeah, I was, in going through this show that I'm doing, I forgot so much stuff. I mean, back in the 70s, mid 70s, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah,
it's this is not an ego thing for me. It's just absolutely overwhelming to me. The things that I've forgotten and the people that I've encountered and the people that have shaped my life and directed my life has been incredible.
So how does one go about doing this retrospective on a 50-year career?
Well, you start from the beginning, and then you try to find material that works with it. I have some of the first commercials I ever did when I was like 9 and 10 years old, and we somehow found them, and found some photos from I think the first TV show that I did was the Happy Day spinoff of Pinky Tuscadero.
Sure, she did that whole sort of finger click pop thing. Yeah. Hey, it's Pinky. Yeah.
And I had to find
and the Malachi brothers.
Yes, the Malachi Crunch.
Right. Back when demolition derbies were a thing, they were just a thing. Like
you should bring those back.
I should bring back the demolition derby.
I would be in that. I would absolutely do that.
I think famously, and I don't know if it was a wives' tale or not, but I think Evel Knievel entered his Rolls Royce in a demolition derby. Chris can check. It feels very Evel Knievel, sure. 1970s, right?
Yeah, great.
Yeah, so the Malachis were these two guys that ran in the demolition derby, and Pinky was Fonzie's girlfriend, and they spun it off.
They kind of hurt her and Fonzie gets involved, if I remember correctly. But I think that was the year before I was on Happy Days. I didn't work with Roz Kelly, who played Pinky, and then Garry Marshall, the great Garry Marshall, wanted to spin her off, and he brought me out after watching Bugsy Malone.
Right.
So that was how I got out here, and Bugsy Malone. That story, how that happened, and then how the things before that happened, and to find all these old photos. And It's actually pretty cool. I mean, I was doing it and looking at it myself. I'm like, damn it, you did a lot of work, man.
Yeah, I mean, you entered TV when a lot of people were entering the second grade, the third grade. I'm trying to think. I mean, you literally entered TV when people enter the third grade and you never left. I mean, maybe until recently, but I mean, it just went from show to show to show to show. And I don't know, you can tell me. I didn't get anywhere near show business until after my 30th birthday.
Right.
So I led a very civilian life, and I wasn't an accountant or a stockbroker. I was grunt labor, drove a truck, roommates, apartments, no air conditioning.
Good stuff.
Well, it's good if you know you're coming out the other end. Like if somebody would have pulled me aside when I was 21 and said, this sucks, right? And I'd go, yeah, it sucks. I'm sleeping on a futon with a dude on the floor in North Hollywood, and I'm making $7-8 an hour, and I'm busting out stucco all day, and I have no insurance. Yeah, this sucks. If they would have stopped me and said, by the time you're 31, you're going to be doing radio, then there's going to be syndicated radio, and there's going to be shows. There's going to be no more swinging a hammer, driving a truck. You can get a cool BMW. Like, I would have probably whistled my way to my miserable job for the next decade, but I never knew I was going to come out the other end. So I had this anxiety when I was 28, like, is this it?
Yeah, well, 28's a weird age, right? Because you're a man, and what am I going to be doing the rest of my life? And you hit it.
Right. So I didn't have a lick of success until 30, and even when I was 30, I didn't really have any, but I was like 31, 32, 33, I got my early 30s. So I had a very sane, almost overly normal relationship with society. Just a lot of waiting in line to pay my electrical bill or my phone bill, getting shit shut off, pushing, going through Home Depot and Van Nuys with 150 dog-eared redwood 6-foot pickets, to do someone's fence in their backyard and all that kind of shit. But you have not lived, and I know we've discussed before, your family kept it normal. You kept it normal. You didn't get sucked into, you didn't live Drew Barrymore's life. But do you ever think, what if I'd hit this when I was 25 or 30? How different would I be?
I don't know. Honestly, God, Adam, I think it's kind of the reverse. I mean, as an actor, you're always thinking, I'm done. After the show, I'm done. Mm-hmm. No one will hire me anymore. Mm-hmm. So the mindset is if you offer me a show or something that's going to last for 10 years, my first thought is, well, what do I do in the 11th year? Mm-hmm. So I don't. 25, yeah, 25. I was pretty damn popular, and I don't know. I don't look back in that way at all. I mean, honestly, it's all I know. Mm-hmm. I don't know anything else, so I can't relate it to what you did. I mean, I worked for my father in the businesses that he had, but I was never on my own building fences and slapping stucco. I never did any of that. I did it at my house when I had time, and I enjoy that kind of stuff, but I never did it to survive. Right.
So, and also, I always kind of ask this, but I'm just projecting, really. It feels like a dream, right? Like a lot of this stuff. Like, did this really happen? Was I really there? Or how did it even work? You know what I mean? Like, how did this happen?
It feels like a dream. What do you like? Your life doesn't yours?
Yeah. I just mean, like, I was some reason last night. I was
to me, it's another person.
Yes, that's what it is. It's not a dream. It's you watching somebody else go through their life in a way as you look back on your career.
Yeah,
right?
and like during this show, the How Did I Get Here? We put up clips and videos, and I'm completely disconnected from that guy, but it's still me.
Right.
And that's a very strange feeling because some of it's 50, 45, 50 years old.
Yeah.
And you want to go back in time and say, what was I doing then?
Mm-hmm.
No idea.
Yeah.
Right? You're just sort of there, and that's kind of some image floating in space, and it's you, but it's not you, but it is you. It's a very odd, feeling. But then, I guess you kind of get used to it. You sort of compartmentalize.
Yeah. It also, to me, I marvel at it in that how did it all come together?
Yeah. That's but that's what this is all about, this show that I'm doing, is how you could look back at your life, and I find this fascinating for anybody, is how did you get here right now? How did you get to this moment where you have all of this stuff and you have a bunch of shows, you do tours, you have a family, you have all of it. And who were the people that got you there? Who were the people that said, hey, Adam, if you do this, this might be a better way to go? And, there's like 4 or 5 people in my life that absolutely stone cold made my life go in a completely opposite direction. Mm-hmm. And to those people, I am grateful. And that's part of what this show is that I'm doing. And also really what this show is, Adam, is a thank you to the people that watch my stuff. Mm-hmm. Because as far as I'm concerned, I don't think anybody watches my stuff. I just think, well, really? You watch my stuff? Cool. Great. And I'm just some dopey kid from Brooklyn who made it on television.
Yeah, I don't know where that comes from, but I'm the same way. I'm always surprised if somebody heard of or listened to or whatever recognizes my voice sometimes. I'm always curious. And I don't know if it's low self-esteem or just no self-esteem, which people think is a negative, but I don't really think of it as a negative. I just don't factor myself in.
See, I think it's humble.
Or the old school word would be humble. But, the thing about humble, as I think about it, humble is sort of active. Like you work at being humble. You humble yourself, or at least that's how we use it. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't have to be humble, but he's humble. And we like humble. I wish we could dust that word off and trot it around a little more because I feel like narcissist has replaced humble. But for me, I don't think of myself as humble. I just think of myself as, why would anyone think about you? I mean, who sometimes you talk to somebody and they'll go, oh, I was just talking to so-and-so. Maybe it's a famous person. I go, we were talking about you. And my first reaction is like, why? Why? It would happen way back in the day when some casting thing would go out and go, we want an Adam Carolla type. And I'd be like, who would want my type? And my parents didn't even want my type in their house.
I get it.
Yeah. But is that just innate? Is that why? So you have no good reason to be humble in the sense that, and don't jump in with your humbleness, but what I mean is I have a clear pathway to humble. I grew up as everything in my life was humbling from 0 to 31. It was nothing but being humbled. Just shut up, or you're a horrible student, or my parents we don't care, go move out. It was like construction foreman yelling at me to run to go to their truck to get a tool and stuff. Like my whole life was one big crock pot of humble. And so by the time I got into a position where maybe I didn't need to be humble, the die was cast. You taking off in the 3rd grade, I could make a good argument for you not to be humble, So how did you maintain that? Or did you even try?
No, I got a big head at him. And when I was probably 20 years old, I talk about this in the show that I'm doing. I was doing 2 different shows on 2 different networks at the same time. And I thought I was pretty hot shit. And through the course of events, they were going to fire me from both shows. And these were both Garry Marshall shows. The guy who.
What year? What 2 shows?
Happy Days and a show called Who's Watching the Kids with Jim Belushi.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I just didn't take the job seriously anymore because I thought I was just the coolest thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I stopped working hard, and they were going to fire me. And Garry Marshall, who was one of the guys, came in and said, "Hey, man, you're blowing this. And this is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. And what are you going to do about it?" And I went, "Okay." And the people that I was around on that show, Winkler, I don't know what he was like off the set, but I was with him enough off the set. He was just a nice guy. He was about as humble as it got. He was like an aw shucks guy. Ron Howard was Opie. That's who he was. And and Garry Marshall was. We don't care about your stuff outside of this show. You're here to work. Whatever your drama is there, whatever that is, nobody really, and in a gentle way, in a loving way. It wasn't like shut the hell up. It was you have a job here, and that's it.
So here's something that popped in my head.
And parenting, by the way, Adam. Parenting.
Yes.
My mom and dad.
I'm very interested in what you said about Garry Marshall sort of having a little come to Jesus moment with you in the right way. I am very curious about people. I've had this in my life, and everyone has, I'm sure, where you've like said to somebody, "You're fucking up, you're blowing it, here's what you got to do." And it's essentially a crossroads. You can go down Scott Baio Highway and straighten your head out and understand what you got and look ahead a little bit and go follow Garry Marshall. And then there's a lot of people who are like, "Fuck you, old man. You're not the boss of me." This immediate kind of pushback, combativeness. And I've definitely experienced that, quite a few times in my life. And I'm curious of like why that's a wiring, why there's so many people that have that wiring. Like Garry Marshall is coming to you because there's a problem and he wants to fix it. And you understand that. But many people look at that, would take that as, why is Garry Marshall hassling me, and kind of get combative and go the other way.
Well, I left out the middle guy in all this, my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Garry said to my dad, who was running my business then, he said, "Go talk to your son." Now, coming from Garry, I would have listened hard, but coming from my dad, I listened harder.
Mm-hmm.
And my father was an intimidating guy, big guy, and there was no gray in him.
Mm-hmm.
It was
no gray area.
No, none. It was you're going to blow it. There's no, listen, if you got to work a little harder, they kind of, whatever, they think you're not doing it. You're blowing it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to work. And if you're not going to work, we're going to go back to Brooklyn. What do you want to do? And I was like, oh, shit. Okay. And I started to work. So Garry didn't have to do that, right?
Right.
It wasn't his... he could have just said, "Okay, let him go." But he recognized something in me, thankfully, and said, no, let him get through it. Let him get through it, and I'll go talk to his dad. And that's how that happened. So I was lucky for Garry to do that.
Was that the only time you needed to be tuned up?
Yeah.
So it was one and done.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, too. So many people, you go, "Hey, here's what you're doing." Like, I would say the average person, in my experience, who is late to lots of things, when you talk to them about, "Hey, man, you're late. You got to knock it off. Running a business here, whatever it is, or it's not fair to the other people that are waiting,
right.
blah, blah, blah." If you have a talk with someone who's late, the average time it takes them to be late again is 2.5 days. They just will show up late. It's like, wow, we just talked about this. You think you could string together a week of not being late. And then for others, it's like, Jesus, that was embarrassing. I'll never be late again. But it is interesting how those talks don't always work on people.
No. I and specifically being late, my father taught me, if you're on time, you're late. Mm-hmm. So the 2 times I've done this show, I'm here like 20 minutes early, and I'm just hanging out.
30, actually.
30, whatever,
yes.
because your time is important, as is my time. But you're doing me a favor, so why would I be disrespectful to you? And that was my old man's whole philosophy in life, was respect.
Uh-huh.
Period.
Yeah.
About everything.
Right.
And if you don't respect him, it was a problem, big problem. But don't disrespect other people. That's the only time he hit me in my life. The only time he ever hit me was when I disrespected some people.
Who did you disrespect?
Do you remember, this is a New York thing, bazaars, carnival.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a ride called the Scrambler.
Mm-hmm.
And
how old were you?
I was probably 10.
Mm-hmm.
And the ride, and there was a ride that used to, I can't describe it. It's like 3 arms, and the things go around like that. And there was a railing on the outside of it, so you couldn't get hit by the cars. And it was an Italian American thing. And I was standing.
Feast of San Gennaro.
No, I don't think it was the feast. It was something else, Italian American Day, whatever it was. I can't remember. It's 51 years ago, and the cars were going. And what I was doing, I was timing it. And when anybody would come by, I'd spit.
Right.
Oh shit.
Right. Sorry.
And I would try to spit on people. And I was doing this for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then I felt the presence of my old man behind me. And I went, oh, shit. And I looked up at him. He says, go home. And I went home, and immediately, it was at night. And this is when you could walk by yourself home in Brooklyn, right? I just walked home by myself. And I got home, and when they came in later, I may believe I was asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes to me and said, get up. I said, I'm sleeping. They get up. Okay. Get up. Whack. The back of the head. I go flying across the room. He says, don't you ever disrespect anybody like that again.
Wow. Yeah. Now, I'm glad that he said disrespect versus sort of spit on, because spit on is the activity. And so you could stop spitting on folks, but you may disrespect them in other ways. The disrespect is an umbrella that covers all the behavior.
Yep.
Yeah, very, very interesting. What business was your dad in?
My father had a lot of different businesses. His main means of business was cars. Mm-hmm. He had used car lots all around Brooklyn, but he had a chain of puppy stores that I worked in. I cleaned up the kennels. He had car washes that I would clean the white walls. So I kind of lived your life a little bit, but I was 11.
Yeah,
and I knew I was getting paid, and I knew I was going home and having dinner. But I got to experience that with him, and he had some other businesses. He's a pretty successful guy. I mean, we were kind of middle class, but cars were his thing, and I'm a car guy. You're a car guy. I love cars, and the first time I ever drove something was I was 12 or 13 years old, driving a '73 Coupe de Ville.
Mm-hmm.
With all my, I must have been 10, whatever I was. I can't remember the exact car. 13, and it was a beautiful blue coupe, and I just thought this is the coolest thing ever.
What was when you were having all this crazy success in your 20s and before as well? By the way, the Malachi Brothers episode is from 1976, the Demolition Derby. They did the Malachi Crunch. Listen, here's how big stuff was back when we had 3 networks. First off, you didn't need or want to watch Happy Days or Laverne and Shirley. You had to. That was it. That's all. That's all. And the Malachi Brothers, I don't even know who the actors were.
I want to say Michael Lerner and his brother. Michael.
Oh, they were actual brothers.
No, Ken Lerner. You have them confused. It's Ken Lerner and Michael Pataki.
Yes, right. Ken Lerner. Michael Lerner's a woman.
So I would literally, after that episode, I would show up to the 3rd grade, and if some kid was walking down the hall, I'd bang on him with my shoulder and go, the Malachi Crunch. Yeah. Like everyone in my school knew what the Malachi Crunch was. And it was just a sitcom. But that's what that's all we had. So if everyone knew what the Malachi Crunch was, everyone knew who Scott Baio was as well.
Right.
And that's, it's just a time that can't be replicated because we're living in a time now where I just get done watching the SAG Awards the other night, and every movie where they bring up the ensemble cast, I'm like, if I passed any of these people in the airport, I'd have no idea who any of them were at all, ever. I recognize 4 people that have been up on stage so far. Back then, Henry Winkler, Scott Baio, whoever, you knew who those people, whoever the crew was from the Love Boat.
Right.
You knew them all.
Well, like you said, 3 networks, and I think Happy Days at the time was averaging, 30, 40 million people. And now a hit show is 500,000 people.
As I always say, 30, 40 million people when the population was 210 million, not 330 like we are now. So from a percentage standpoint, it's literally 23% of America essentially knows who Scott Baio is, which, again, had to be sort of, I guess it's all how you interpret it, like, I've never looked at being recognized as bothersome. I've always looked at it as this
validation.
Right? You were talking about earlier about, I was saying feeling like a dream or something, but you corrected me, and you were correct in saying it feels like I was another person, living that life. And I don't know how you took it, but whenever anyone would recognize me, I wouldn't think of it as an inconvenience or why you're bothering me. I thought of it as they're recognizing the person they see on TV, and that's a very normal thing to do. That's who they're recognizing. And it wasn't deep and weird, like, you don't know who I really am. It wasn't that. It was just like, you're on TV, people see you on TV, then they see you at a steakhouse, and they say hi. Because those are the rules.
Yeah.
Why would that be annoying?
Oh no, it's not annoying unless it becomes too much to handle. Then it's a situation that you have to get out of, and that's happened many times to me. But you go through phases of, like you said, people come up and asking you, "Hey, how you say? Do you get this? Do you get people going, 'Hey, Adam, how you doing?'" And you go, I must know this person.
Yeah.
Good. You don't know me. We just, or you'll get, this happened to me. He says, "Hey, you remember me?" I go, "No." He says, "I banged into you at the supermarket about 10 years ago."
Right.
Literally. And I went, "No, I just don't remember you. I'm sorry, but it's nice to see you. How you been?" Right? And you go down through that conversation. But yeah, then you go through phases of it's kind of weird, and then it's kind of exciting, and then it's kind of I don't want to say intrusive. It gets a little out of hand, and then it becomes normal and just part of your everyday life. And that becomes the rest of your life. I mean, now my I guess, for lack of a better term, my star power isn't what it used to be, but I still get recognized quite a bit. And it's kind of cool. I mean, it's kind of comforting, actually, because you're not gone, you haven't disappeared.
So what's your take on kind of the state of things now in Hollywood politically? Like, I feel like when half the country sort of had Trump derangement syndrome, everyone was on some sort of high state of agitation alert constantly. Like, there were just like people were walking around. They hated Trump. They were agitated. Then they got rid of Trump, but they almost missed Trump, like in a weird Stockholm syndrome kind of way, like you were abducted and kept in a basement for 4 years, and you hated your captor, And then at some point you got freed, but we found you hanging around the porch of the house you were held captive in, like still wanting to know where the guy was. It felt very self-imposed and self-inflicted and kind of weird. And then Hollywood got very us or them about everything. Definitely, you had two choices as far as I could tell. You could stand up and denounce Trump, or you were pushed out of the party. Mm-hmm. And it was also sort of thing where
that's me.
There was no neutrality.
Right.
There was no like, well, look, maybe I like some of the shit he does, and maybe I don't like some other things he does. And how do you know what I'm thinking? I haven't said anything either way. And they went, no, we know what you're thinking because you didn't denounce Trump. And then they're a very insecure, weird, sort of cliquish adolescent group who then decided that essentially, if we can't get to Trump, we can get to Scott Baio or whomever is around who is not denouncing Trump, and we can figure out ways to punish them. And it's funny. I talk to Dr. Drew about this stuff all the time, and we always just go, yuck. Like, it feels so gross. You know what I mean? Like to pass someone on a horse trail and tell them to put their mask on or something. Right. It feels like weird. It feels like the opposite of being an adult. Mm-hmm. But your experiences?
I have on social media. You could only imagine the hatred that comes my way, and I don't. It doesn't bother me because we talked about this last time, Adam. I going in for Trump. I said, if I don't work again, I'm cool. You had a great expression called the F me money, which I thought was pretty damn funny. But honestly, I don't hang out with Hollywood people. I try not to because inevitably it becomes about Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to talk about Hollywood because I think Hollywood, and I've been in it my whole life, it's a lot of bullshit. And I don't want to be around. I don't want to be in competition when I'm hanging out with my friends, smoking a cigar. There's a lot of I don't particularly like hanging out with actors. Mm-hmm. It's all ego shit. Mm-hmm. I'm not into that. I don't care. But in terms of Trump and the the pushing out of the party, yeah. That happens. It happened. I told you the story about the woman from ABC didn't want anything to do with me because I was a Trump person.
Right.
And there's other people that will not. How about this? I'm doing this show in Florida, right? The how did I get here? And we had a theater booked, and the guy who's promoting it was asked by the theater owner, "What's the show about?" And he said it was a show for Scott Baio, and he said, "I don't want to do it."
Yeah,
and like you said, it's just so illogical to me. Trump, fine. You hate the guy. I found him funny.
Yeah, I did too.
I found him to be a guy from Queens. I totally got his humor. Could he be abrasive? Absolutely. Was he an a-hole a lot of the time? Sure. Was he all the thing, pompous and all? Absolutely. But I don't care how what your personality is when you paint my house. If you do a good job,
yeah,
I'm good.
Well, that's an interesting point, which is entering kind of the world of feelings versus policies.
That's all it is.
It's all feelings. And I've been shouting this from the mountaintop, same as you. Like, hey, that guy seemed to be, that'd be a good guy to have a beer with. There's a lot of that kind of thing. Like President Obama was the embodiment of, man, it'd be cool to have a beer with that guy. That's who he was. And Trump, it was the opposite of that, even though I'd like to have a beer with him. I found him funny too, but I get it. But it's at some point, these people are making policies. And you're never going to, my whole thing is you're never going to have a beer with them anyway.
Right.
So what makes you think, you and Barack are going to crack a cold one in Maui? I don't think that's going to happen. Back to the house painting analogy. I'm not having a beer with the painter. I just want the best product. And something happened to the country, and it's been taking place over the number of years. And look, if you don't believe me, how speeches, when you listen to politicians make speeches, they talked in the past a lot about policy. Now they're talking about, I feel you, I'm a dad too, I understand. I mean, we have Rochelle Walensky, who's running the CDC, and she's like, as a mom, I have a bad feeling. And I'm like, shut up. Yeah. I don't give a fuck.
Right.
I mean, go home and hug your kids, but we're talking policy here, baby. And lots of these feelings that as a woman of color, as a mother, I care. It's like, I don't know when we made this shift, but it's not what you want.
No.
For policies.
I agree. Rush Limbaugh used to say it's the chickification of the country. Yes. And I agree with that. I just want stuff done.
Right.
I think you could even relate it to the masks. People that were not wearing masks were probably Republicans.
Right.
And Republicans are not about people that we have feelings, but a Republican, a Democrat will see a homeless guy and go, "Oh, poor homeless guy. Oh, I wonder what his mother was, or whatever." A Republican goes, "Man, I want to get this guy off the street. I want to put him in a facility, get him cleaned up, and get him a job." But now that's considered mean, and that's kind of where we are. There was,
but. Let me just say something. There's a time and a place. Your dad smacked you for spitting on patrons at the Italian feast. Garry Marshall sort of came in and said, we need to tune up your son. You know, people think that's mean now. It's not mean. It's necessary.
Right.
Homeless people need to be scraped up, taken care of, many need to be supervised and put in a place, and there needs to be some gravity and some reality in their life. And if you're calling that mean, then it's like you're saying, "Oh, you people at Yellowstone Park who put the lids on top of the dumpster so the bears can't forage through the dump. That's mean."
Right.
It's the exact same thing.
Exactly right.
No, the bears need to go out and forage and hunt and do what they do. They need to learn that. They're getting diabetic hanging out by the dumpster.
Right. But then what's meaner? Letting the guy die?
Of course.
Or trying to help him. I have this conversation. I hang out with liberal guys. I said, "But what your logic, there's no logic in what you're telling me." And I try to be a pretty black and white guy. So there's a problem, fix it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to hear feelings about it. Fix it. And I felt that's what Trump was doing. Right. Now, I think if he runs again and he wants to win, in my opinion, he should come out and say, "Look, I get it. You guys think I'm an a-hole. I understand. And I'm gruff. And I'm all the things I said, but I get it done." Now, if you can put that, however he wants to couch that, however he wants to say that, that might go a long way for him. But I was watching the CPAC speech, and I don't think he's gonna change at all.
No,
but that's who he is.
I agree, and like I'm saying, you're not having a beer with the guy, but you are paying for gas.
Right. Exactly right.
That's basically breaks down to let him say whatever he wants. We can get the price at the pump down $1.50 a gallon. That will impact you more than this hypothetical beer that you're never going to have with this person you'll never be in the same room with.
Adam, I know guys that love everything he did, but would not vote for him.
Yeah, because of the attitude.
I said, but you're voting against your own self-interest. I can't. No, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a kind of, I always say to Dr. Drew, it's a kind of, I call it the death of math. I also, look, hat tip to Rush, but 12 years ago, I wrote a book called "In 50 Years We'll All Be Chicks."
I just saw that. I saw that in your...
I said it for a reason.
Yeah.
That was, and I wrote that book in 2009. or 8.5 or something. I got which way the wind was blowing. I could smell the massingale in the air, Scott. And I knew what was happening, and it wasn't a road to success. It's not a good way to build a bridge or enforce the border or deal with the homeless. It's not going to solve it. That is unfortunate, or win a war. It's the reason, MacArthur and Patton and those guys were those guys. Churchill, those were dudes. They didn't get involved with a lot of feelings.
What was the guy's name that won the Iraq War in the Bush?
Schwarzkopf?
Schwarzkopf. Our job is to kill people and break shit.
Yeah.
Now I don't want anybody to die in a war, for God's sakes, but you got to break shit, and people have to die. And I think we've gotten to the point where we're afraid to offend anybody about anything ever. So Garry Marshall tells me where it's at. I don't think he could do that today. I think he'd probably get sued or called out publicly or whatever. I don't think that would happen anymore.
Well, what people don't think about constantly is these sort of unintended consequences. Like you go, shut the schools down. Let's have the kids be safe. All right. Nothing scientifically suggests we do that, but fine, shut the schools down. Okay, now we have teen suicides go up, and depression and mental illness and drug abuse. Okay, that's the other side of that. Shut down the pipeline. We'll rely on solar and wind. Okay, now we got to get fuel from Russia, and gas prices are up too high. What I'm talking about with you, as it pertains to Garry Marshall, is unintended consequences. I'm a boss. I have employees. Occasionally, there's a female who works for me. I should take her out to lunch and get to know her and want to know what her ambitions are and how she fits in and so on and so forth. I'm not doing that.
Of course not.
Because of this unintended consequence. Right. Now, who's being hurt by this? Not really me. I'm still the boss. She is the 23-year-old who'd like to make her way up the ladder, doesn't get to have lunch with the boss.
Right.
So
I will not get in an elevator with a woman that I don't know anymore.
Really?
Yep. Woman gets on, I get off.
Really?
Yep.
What if she's not wearing a mascot? By the way, mascot. All right, let me tell you about X-Chair. From the first moment I sat in my X-Chair, I thought, this is what a real office chair feels like. I have an X-Chair at home. I bought one long ago, paid full freight for it before they came on as sponsors. Now we're sitting in an X-Chair, and it's a wonderful experience. Can your current office chair give you a massage, heat up, cool down? The X-Chair can, with LMX massage and temperature regulation exclusively designed for X-Chair. Plus, customized support of X-Chair's patented dynamic variable lumbar, or DVL. You can try X-Chair for yourself, risk-free, for 30 days. Once you realize how much better it is than the chair you're sitting in now, you'll never go back. It is X-Chair, right, Dawson?
Go to xchairadam.com now. That's a letter X, chair, 80am.com, or call 844-4XChair for $100 off your order. X-Chair has a 30-day guarantee of complete comfort, and you can finance your purchase for as little as $30 a month. xchairadam.com.
All right, we'll take a quick break. Back with more Scott Baio right after this. All right, Scott is here. He's got a one-man show, How Did I Get Here? And it's coming up at the Broadway Palm Theater, March 7th, and then heading out to Caldwell, New Jersey. And what you can do is go to adamcarolla.com, because we'll post a link up there.
Thank you.
And
go to eventbrite.com for the first show, and then Calandra's Il Vecchio restaurant in Caldwell. It'll be on their website.
You know, another thing I talk to Dr. Drew about all the time is sort of intent and motivation and respect, sort of like what your father would talk about, which is, you know, somebody like Dr. Drew gets pummeled in social media because of some thought about COVID that's not going the direction of the retarded zeitgeist. I get pummeled for talking about not wanting to close schools down. Scott Baio gets pummeled for X, Y, or Z. Dr. So-and-so from the Barrington Declaration, the Great Barrington Declaration, he's getting pummeled for whatever, a year ago, whatever. I think I always talk to Dr. Drew about is, who do you think we are? Like, I would like to keep schools open. Why? Because I'm in deep with some custodial service that cleans the desks, and I get $5 off of every floor that gets mopped. Or I don't have a dog in the. I have 2 kids. Right. I would like them to go to school, but anyone who knows me knows I'm not even that into school because of what it's sort of become. I've a sort of work hard. You want to learn something, go on the computer. I'll get you a job working here when you get out of high school, whatever. I have a laissez-faire approach to what has become our modern education. So what's in it for me when I'm saying open the schools and then everyone's pummeling the shit out of me, or don't close down outdoor dining, or don't close down the beaches, or don't close down the playgrounds, anything. Okay. Or Dr. Drew, or whomever, or Scott Baio. I don't know. What is our motivation here? What is, okay, we're evil, or we don't love kids. You don't think I love my kids? You don't think I care about other people's kids? You don't think I care about where I live or the community? Like, what? Can we just drill down a little here before you call everyone a Nazi or Hitlerian or like a racist or whatever the hell it is? What do you think the motivation is for Dr. Drew or Scott Baio? And why can't you take a second and go, well, I disagree with his stance on closing, wanting to keep outdoor dining open, but he's a doctor. He probably knows something.
It's a hell of a question.
And isn't that something that 9-year-olds do?
At the end, I don't. At some point in the next 10 or 15 years, some group or Johns Hopkins or some is going to go back with shrinks and figure out what the hell this was all about. I mean, it went from panic to lockdown to semi-lockdown to lockdown again, and I always default to control.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to control, and it's tremendous power in control, and you're not going to let me control you.
Yeah, that's the way I've looked at it.
You're the devil, and I'm just trying to live my life, and let me if I can make sense with this. So, COVID now ostensibly is over. We've dropped the masks. Kinda. We don't know what and watching the State of the Union. Well, there might be another variant. Well, yeah. Shit. Of course, and we're going to get sick. And I had it, didn't know it, and so there's this constant fear that is put into the public, and that's how you control them. And then,
yes.
And then, please correct me if I heard this or not. So, as soon as the mask mandate goes away, Gavin Newsom tells us how to deal with nuclear fallout. Did I hear that correctly?
I haven't even heard that yet. But
so I'm like, wow, we just get over this fear. Oh, we got nuclear fallout because Russia might send nukes over. I think that I've heard it, and it wasn't one of those things where I went and listened to it. I just heard it sort of. Gavin Newsom is teaching us stay away from the walls because plaster will blow, whatever. And I went, God in heaven, leave us alone.
Well, at this point, if California gets nuked, that'll be a lateral move for the people who live in California. I would have to really consider that. Would you like another 4 years with Gavin Newsom or nuked? Can I get back to you tomorrow?
Your money or your life?
Yeah, it's fear. It's also as we.
Also, you're a MAGA if you don't want to put a mask on. And MAGA is the worst 4-letter word you could ever use.
Yes. I was talking to Dr. Drew about this earlier. It's a simple equation. It's fear. Fear equals control. How do you get fear. Well, you don't get fear out of me and Scott Baio, but you get fear out of the moms. And how do you get fear out of the moms? You scare them about their kids.
Right.
So this crazy emphasis on, kids, the whole time. We're insane. People, it's the death of math. They've been focusing on the kids, right? We shut the schools down. Okay, you can take your mask off in indoor dining now, but not at schools. They still got to keep. So you're taking the populace that this really doesn't affect statistically, and you're tripling down on that populace. Why? If you have a situation, if the disease is scleroderma, and it doesn't fucking affect kids, but it affects people 55 and older, then why are you fucking with kids so much? If we're talking about scleroderma or anything else, why are we so obsessed with the group that it doesn't statistically affect? And the answer is scare the moms about the kids, and then the moms will control what's going on in the house, and then we will control you through fear. It's abundantly evident that's exactly what is going on.
Right.
And has been going on. Now, I don't know why more people don't wake up to that notion, and
I think they are waking up, but they're getting silenced.
They're waking up 2 years on.
Right. Well, thank God.
Well, thank God.
Right. I mean, my kid's 14, and she goes to a great school, but I don't want to get into the whole story. And she hates it. They're done now, but she hates it, and she's hated it from day one. And
she hates what?
The mask.
Yes, the mask.
She, as far as she's concerned, it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
And she's right. But there were kids in her school, and it's a private school who's walking around with the masks on still. And I go, what have we done to these young people? What have we done to them? And
I'll tell you what the answer is.
Go.
It's called crate training. I've been saying this over and over again. Get them when they're puppies. Crate train a dog.
That's what's his name.
That's how you do it.
Not Stalin. My mind is not working right now.
You can't crate train old ass Scott Baio, old ass Adam Carolla, and old ass Dr. Drew. No. We cannot be crate trained, but you can crate train them if you get them as puppies.
Yep.
And that's what we're doing. It's sad, but that's the plan. Because once we get them into the crate, then whatever comes down the pike.
Next thing.
Whatever the next thing is.
That's the nuclear holocaust. That's what we're gearing up for.
Right. Again, let me get back to you on that one. Still don't. I haven't had time to really weigh the checks and balances, the pros and the cons.
It's just
it's sad. The sad part is how many people bought in. A lot, and went along with it, and then how scary and how fast, groupthink and everything just dove in.
You know what? That bothers me more than anything. That really bothers me, because I thought I really, and maybe because I'm an old guy now, Adam, I thought as Americans we'd just say, you know what? You can kiss my ass. I'm not going to walk around with a mask on. This is stupid. But nope.
Well, I'll say this. I had this thought earlier today. It was like, I was watching the State of the Union.
Yeah.
They left an open chair for Elijah in between everybody. They had a one chair space. So they had, by the way, safe space was 6 feet. It somehow got reduced to 24 inches or something. They left an open chair for all the adults, and these are the best and the brightest. These are the greatest minds in the country. And then as soon as they were done with this speech, they all got out of their chair and started hugging each other. What science are we speaking of? And this is the whole thing. You know what I said today? I was yelling at Dr. Drew when I was talking to him today. I said, you know what? I'll sign off on the mask as a concept, but not the way we implemented it. Okay. The second they said, wear a mask on a commercial flight, I said, all right. Then they said, take it off when you eat Fiesta Mix. And I went, oh, well, now this doesn't matter. You guys social distance sitting in a chair, but when we're done, it's one big clusterfuck.
I think what happened is that as they started making rules, they forgot what the last rules were.
Yes.
And they just kept going. And somebody said, hey, you said this yesterday. Did I? Oh,
Right.
Shit. Okay. You want to hear
Groupthink.
You want to hear something crazy? If I told you to stop me last time I was here, a friend of mine is a wrestling coach, and he high school wrestlers, and here's the protocol. So they wrestle, no mask. This is a couple of months ago. They're hugging each other, spitting on each other, sweating on each other, grabbing each other. When the match is over, they can't shake hands.
I'm silent because it's.
That was the protocol, and he said, and I went, no. He goes, yeah, they can't, and the ref can't raise the arm of the kid. That wins.
Right.
I said, I'm shocked somebody won.
Yeah, let someone win. Theater, just
It's
theater.
It's absolute theater. It's exactly what it is.
And it is kind of interesting, dude think, chick think, circling back to Rush or in 50 Years We'll All Be Chicks. I've been saying for a long time, this is chick think. But I started thinking about the symbolism. So, yeah, two teenagers sweating their ass off, trying to get each other into, half Nelson or figure four or something. Well, it's pro wrestling. But anyway, then at the end, no shaking hands. Theater. But think about sort of versus what we were talking about. Policy, what makes sense. Let's get it built. Let's take care of business. Let's be pragmatic. But think about dude mind, chick mind. Women, I've never met a woman that didn't love flowers. They love them. They love flowers. To guys, it's like, I like flowers, but I don't want to pay $70 for something that's going to be dead. I'd rather have a cordless drill. You want to make my Valentine's weekend a success? Just give me the Makita lithium ion.
Do you want to know
18 volts?
Do you want to know?
But that's okay. So what this is wrestling for an hour and then not being able to shake hands. That's flowers.
Right.
That's chick think. Sorry, Scott.
No, it just reminded me how different we are. And my wife, this is a bunch of years ago. It was either her birthday or Valentine's Day. And a while back, she had mentioned that she wanted a certain kind of shower head.
Mm-hmm.
So for the holiday, I bought her a shower head.
Yeah.
She lost her mind. And I said, well, it's practical.
Right.
You can use it.
Right.
I'm going to buy you something that's going to be dead. And she wanted to kill me.
Right.
But anyway, listen, there is a time and a place for feelings, and there's a time and a place for getting shit done.
Well, the answer is a balance. I think if we want to just keep this analogy going, next year for Valentine's, you get your wife a beautiful bouquet, and she gets you the oscillating spindle sander. Okay, fine. The problem with that, and that's fine at home, but when it comes into policy, we need the oscillating spindle sander.
Right.
Both sides need it.
Right.
That's
a good point.
We both need this tool.
Good way to put it.
And that's kind of where we're at now. I've never heard more talk about feelings in my entire life by 75-year-old adults who are in charge of policy.
But I think they're just full of shit about it. They're acquiescing to whatever the whoever tweets and does whatever the hell they do.
I don't believe.
And it's such an insignificant portion of the population that actually tweets.
Right.
And we don't go down this rabbit hole. It's just horrifying to me.
Yeah. So it's an interesting time, and I would argue that instead of pulling your hair out or cutting on yourself, if you sit back and go, wow, this is interesting, like examining human behavior during this time, it can be frustrating and it can be demoralizing, but there's a part of me that feels like Jane Goodall, and I'm just studying chimps, and I'm just going, wow, look at these people. This is interesting.
I feel bad for a lot of people.
Yes.
I do. I just live your life. Just go live it.
I feel bad that they're that malleable.
Yeah.
And that they can be that horrible ideas can overtake them so quickly. Like that, I remember, it's funny, it stuck out in my head when I was talking to my dad. He's going to turn 90. He was like 84. Oh, it was 85, 86 or something. And I was like sitting with him. We're just having a talk, and somehow Trump came up. And he got animated. He was like, he's locking kids in cages. He's taking them and putting them in cages. I was like, wow, you're never too old to learn retarded tricks. Right. Like, I was like, you're 85 years old and you're being hit with these crazy ideas and regurgitating them, and it's affecting you. Like, you're being animated by it. And I thought, wow, that's interesting.
Powerful.
When I was a kid, by the time you made it to 40, you were just set. That was just who that dude was. He loves Oldsmobiles, and he smokes Winstons, and he loves the Mets. That's who he was. You didn't see him spouting out new idiotic ideas at this advanced age. Interesting how fast people can be run over by shitty ideas.
Because it's constant. Let me ask you a quick question. Is your dad proud of you?
I'm sure if you got him drunk and he had a quiet moment. He's never said it per se. I mean, that's not his vibe. But
Carolla is Italian?
It's Italian.
And he's from where?
He's from South Philly.
So he's an old school, no emotion guy.
It doesn't have an ounce of any of what you would think would be
My
in him.
My father too. No emotion.
Yeah.
Tough guy. Your father a big guy?
No, never. No, little guy never taught me a lesson. It's just a weird, a parent you've never seen in the wild. You've never seen anyone like my dad. You just haven't.
When you don't get the sense that, like, boy, look at my son. You don't get that sense ever. Because my father, I don't think he ever said the words, I am proud of you. I can't remember. I would remember. But I could tell in his demeanor. I could tell in the way he would walk with me.
Well, all right, a simple test. Did your dad follow your work? Like when you did an episode, or you've got a million episodes of a million shows, but if Happy Days was on a Thursday?
Friday, Tuesday. Yes, watched.
He would watch.
No, but be more than that, Adam. My parents came to almost every taping I've ever done.
Well, that would be the difference.
Yeah,
I think no one's ever come to a tape. My dad lives here. He's never been to taping.
He lives in this building.
He's on the roof right now. As a conscientious objector. All right, we'll go out on a high note and a low note for me personally, or spiritually or morally. Scott Baio, How Did I Get Here is the name of the one-man show. Support this man's retrospective of 50 years in TV. And we can go to adamcarolla.com to find out where to link it up. But we can also go where, Scott, you mentioned?
Eventbrite.com and go to Il Vecchio Restaurant in Caldwell, New Jersey. Eventbrite is for Florida.
Waukegan, Illinois. I'm playing the Genesee Theater. That's coming up March 10th. And then I'm going to Kansas City, the Comedy Club of Kansas City, the 11th and the 12th. I'll do some stand-up there, some live pods there, going off to Austin, Indianapolis. Go to adamcarolla.com for all the live dates. And until next time, it's Adam Carolla, Scott Baio, and Eric Huberman, and Gina Grad, and Paul Bryan saying mahalo.
I'm not a State of the Union stan. I haven't seen every minute of every one, but is heckling common? I feel like I've never seen that before.
I would call it rare, but it happened.
Okay.
It had the ULI thing with Obama and Obamacare or something like that. He said, I don't know, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. He was lying, by the way, to be fair to the guy, but you still let him say it.